In this first warm-up lesson, we'll discuss animating head turns, blinks, and eye movements. First, I just wanted to give a brief of these warm-up lessons. They're designed not only to get you familiarized with this rig, but also to get you loosened up with animating to dialogue. Rather than just jumping into the project, I encourage you to first work on these mini lessons so when you get into the main project, you'll feel a little bit more comfortable. So let's take a look at the end result of this first warm-up lesson to see what we'll be working on. And here's a play blast of it. I'll just hit play. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on, breaking down this movement and the mechanics of this movement and applying it on our character, from the timing and spacing of the head turns and also the subtlety of that, even some slight neck movements in there, and the blinks. I'm going to be working on that and the subtleties of the eyes. So we're going to cover a lot of great material. I'll just go ahead and hit stop and minimize. Okay, so first let's go ahead and set our start and end time. We'll set our start time to 1 and our end time we'll set to 125, the duration of our first warm-up lesson. And we could also click on frame 1 to make sure we're on it. Okay, next let's go ahead and hide our face GUI because we won't be using it just yet. So we'll select our net control, go to the show hide GUI and turn it from show to hide. So now it's gone. And also, if we select the head control, for example, and start rotating it around, notice how the eyes are locked onto their targets. Okay, and that could be a little bit distracting because we're going to be working on the head turns first, the head movements first. So what we can do is hit 5 on our keyboard so we won't let the eyes be of any distraction to us. Okay? And also, I want to mention that we will actually be using the gimbal rotation mode, not gimbal lock but gimbal rotation mode, and here's why. Let's say if the character, right now we're in local mode for our rotation. Let's say if we rotate the character like this and we only wanted to move our character in the rotate Z, for example. Right? Let's say if we wanted to clean up our F curve and only rotate it in a certain axis even though our character's head is like this. Well, watch what happens if I move in the rotate Z now. Notice how all of the channels are updating. Whereas with gimbal mode, if we're in gimbal mode and rotating, only the Z will be moving when we move the Z. And let me show you what I mean by that. So if we hold E on our keyboard and left mouse button click and hold, we get to our rotate options. Okay, and we want to select gimbal. And once we do, our constraint rings have now slightly changed. And if we go back to the Z and start moving it, notice we're only moving in the Z. So again, this is great for wanting to clean up F curves. We won't be using it for this whole entire kit, but we will be using it for this first warm-up lesson, and I just wanted to mention that to you as it may come in handy for a project that you may be animating. So let me go ahead and bring these back to their default in case we're on gimbal. And we're just about ready to animate, but before we do, I just wanted to stress a few points. First, I highly recommend to animate the extreme poses first, then move on to the in-between poses. This technique, which is actually the pose-to-pose principle in animation, is crucial when wanting to achieve correct, believable timing, especially for animating to dialogue. And believe it or not, it may actually save you some time when animating, because rather than just jumping into the animation head-on, hoping that you'll get nice timing, with this method you'll actually be more organized with the keyframes that you'll set. You'll know precisely when certain actions should occur. So again, I highly recommend to use this technique. And also another thing I want to stress is that sometimes simple is more, meaning you don't want to get too complex with your animations unless you really need to. We just want to aim for what looks good, what's entertaining. So once your animation reaches that point, there's any extra tweaks on it may just be a waste of time. So these are the techniques that we'll be using in this kit and what we want to keep in mind when animating. Okay. So with that, that completes this first lesson, this first warm-up lesson. We can now move on to the next lesson where we'll actually begin animating.